कि गोल्ड के ऊपर कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ रही है क्योंकि मैं कह रहा
ट्रू।
हूं कि जिस तरह का एपिक रैली जो हमने देखा वो सोना में, एंड दैट इज सिग्नलिंग दैट द फिएट करेंसीज वैल्यूज आर एक्चुअली डिटीरियोरेटिंग. Gold is if you see the forex reserves of the central banks, gold is now the second leading reserve asset in the entire basket of the worldwide central banks.
Simple advice to the investors that what to do on gold and how much exposure should they have in the portfolio. It's a minimum 15%.
Yeah, 15% is what is recommended.
Hi, welcome everybody. आज मेरे साथ हैं मिस्टर एन एस रामास्वामी. ही इज द हेड ऑफ कमोडिटीज एंड CRM फ्रॉम वेंचुरा. मेरे साथ खास बातचीत करने के लिए बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका सर.
Welcome. Thank you.
सर, वेंचुरा की रिपोर्ट के मुताबिक जो है गोल्ड अराउंड 4600 टू $4800 एक्सपेक्ट किया जा सकता है इन द कमिंग ईयर 2026. हाउ रियलिस्टिक
Correct.
इज दिस द टारगेट कंसिडरिंग द मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशंस?
हाँ, बेसिकली ये जो फैक्टर्स जो है वो एकदम मेजर फैक्टर्स सपोर्ट कर रही है इस प्रेडिक्शंस के लिए. 2025 में हमने देखा और इसी तरह वही ट्रेंड हमें 2026 तक भी दिखाई दे रहा है. जहाँ की इस लेवल की बात करें, हालांकि लास्ट ईयर में तो ज़्यादा ही बढ़त थी. इस साल 25 से लेके 26 में तो बढ़त परसेंटेज टर्म्स में तो कम होगा, लेकिन फिर भी लक्ष्य हमारा 4,600 और $4,800 की तरफ लग रहा है. क्योंकि फंडामेंटली यदि आप देखेंगे जहां भी ये सपोर्ट करती जा रही है वो है डी डॉलराइजेशन की बात चले, जियोपॉलिटिकल हेज के एंगल से भी जब ये देखते जाएं, या इन्फ्लेशन स्टेबिलिटी के एंगल में, और सेंट्रल बैंक्स की जिस तरह का डाइवर्सिफिकेशन होती जा रही है, ये एक मात्रा में जो सपोर्ट दे रही है स्पेक्युलेटिव ट्रेंड को, और ईटीएफ और रिटेल में भी. उसके उसके वजह से ईटीएफ पार्टिसिपेशन भी बढ़ती जा रही है. और मुख्य कारण जो है जिस तरह का हर एक जो कंसोलिडेशन फेस में भी हमने देखा गोल्ड को, या जिस तरह का जो 6 मंथ्स का गवर्नमेंट, ऑलमोस्ट 6 वीक्स का जो मानते हैं कि वो गवर्नमेंट शटडाउन हुई थी, वहां पर से भी एक ट्रिगर
हाँ.
मिला था और अक्टूबर में. तो हमें मान के चलना है कि ये इस तरह का बहुत सारे ट्रिगर्स जो है गोल्ड को ऊपर लेते गई है. और व्हाट विल बी सरप्राइजिंग, अगर यदि फेड जो है आगे चल के, जो यूएस की सेंट्रल बैंक जो है, यदि ट्रम्प या फेड जो यूएस प्रेसिडेंट जो है कहीं
हम्म.
भी इस तरह का कुछ घोषणा करें जहां डॉलर को इग्नाइट करें या डॉलर इंडेक्स इंडेक्स को मजबूती दिया जाएगा, या कहीं इकोनॉमिक डेटा रिलीजेस को सडनली एक ट्विस्ट और टर्न आ जाएगी, तब जाके शायद फेड जो है वो एक हॉकिश टर्न में जा सकती है. आज यूएस फेड जो सेंट्रल बैंक जो है वो डॉविश तरफ है. जो 10 दिसंबर को जो घोषणा आई थी ब्याज
हाँ.
दर जो है उसमें 25 बेसिस पॉइंट का कटौती का, तो मैं समझ रहा हूं कि ये जो ट्रेंड फंडामेंटल मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स एंड एवरीथिंग जेट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसीज जो है वो सपोर्ट करती जा रही है. और लास्ट एक और इसमें ऐड करना चाहूंगा, 10 दिसंबर को जो एफओएमसी ने जब डोविश डिसीजन जब भी लिए थे, वहां पर एक क्यूई का ट्रेजरी मोनेटाइजेशन की बात की है. वो बहुत बड़ी बात है. जो
हम्म.
करीब करीब हर महीने में करीब $40 बिलियन का एक मंथली ट्रेजरीज में बाइंग बाइंग होते जाएगा. और ये जो है बहुत ही इन्फ्लेशनरी ट्रेंड माना जाता है, जो कि हमें हमारा हमारा गोल्ड के लिए एक अच्छा सपोर्टिव फैक्टर होती जा रही है.
Mm-hmm. So you have mentioned about the central bank. So I my next question is about the about that only. Central banks are aggressively accumulating gold. So what is the signal about the confidence in the global fiat currencies going forward?
हाँ, एब्सोल्युटली. यही कॉन्फिडेंस फिएट करेंसी का जगह के विपरीत मैं ये बोलूंगा कि गोल्ड के ऊपर कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ रही है, क्योंकि मैं कह रहा हूं
True.
कि जिस तरह का एपिक रैली जो हमने देखा वो सोना में, एंड दैट इज सिग्नलिंग दैट द फिएट करेंसीज वैल्यूज आर एक्चुअली डिटीरियोरेटिंग. Gold is, if you see the forex reserves of the central banks, gold is now the second leading reserve asset in the entire basket of the worldwide central banks. So
Hmm.
it was always the predominantly the dollar, and then euro and other currencies, and then gold. Now just it is just a shed behind a dollar as a reserve currency. एंड सेकेंडली जो गोल्ड, ये जो मजबूती का और एक जो ट्रेंड हमें जो दिखाई दे रहा है वो है 9 कॉन्सिक्यूटिव क्वार्टर्स. अगर आप देखेंगे पिछला हर तिमाही जो बोलते हैं, एवरी क्वार्टर्स,
हाँ।
द 9 consecutive quarters इंक्लूडिंग Q4 ऑफ 2025,
हम्म।
ये कॉन्सिक्यूटिव हाइज बना चुका है गोल्ड। तो ये कॉन्फिडेंस, गोल्ड का रिटर्न्स यदि अक्टूबर महीने में भी देखेंगे आप, 18 से 19% का सिर्फ सिंगल मंथ में एक जंप हुआ था। और
हम्म।
15 न्यू ऑल टाइम रिकॉर्ड्स बनाई थी, क्लोज किए थे करीब करीब अक्टूबर 23 से लेके अक्टूबर 25 तक। करीब 140% का, 139% इज अ पोटेंशियल परसेंटेज जंप विच हैज बीन स्ट्रेस्ड। तो
हम्म।
मान के चलते हैं कि इट कैन बी एन ओवरबॉट लेवल्स, बट स्टिल द consolidations have always been supportive. So central banks का confidence of building up and institutional buying and picking up is likely to be the greatest trigger.
Hmm. Already we have seen the bull run in the last quarters and central bank का confidence भी जो आप कह रहे हैं, अगर इन्वर्स हो सकता है, इज इट एक्सपेक्टेड कि बाइंग स्लो डाउन हो जाए 26 में? अगर ऐसा हुआ
Madam,
उसका क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा? इज इट एनी
we
पॉसिबिलिटी?
No, we don't expect a slowing down by the central banks. It's basically it's only the economic growth trajectory, या monetary policy decisions and budget deficit. ये जो है, ये मैक्रो ट्रेंड हर एक नेशन में स्थिर है। लाइक
या।
इट इज कंफर्म्ड, देयर आर यूएस, इंडिया, चाइना, एवरीवेयर देयर इज दैट बजट डेफिसिट का फाइटिंग हो रही है। देयर इज
हम्म।
इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ का ट्रेजेक्टरी का पीछे जा रहे हैं हम।
हाँ।
मॉनिटरी पॉलिसी डिसीशंस एंड इस तरह का, जिस तरह ईजिंग ऑफ पॉलिसीज होती जा रही है, तो मैं समझ रहा हूं कि दिस कंटिन्यूड बाइंग स्प्री इज लाइकली टू रिमेन। आई डोंट थिंक इट मे स्लो डाउन, यस। दैट स्लो डाउन इज ओनली बेसिस मॉनिटरी पॉलिसी डिसीशंस में या वगैरह। बट द वर्ल्ड गोल्ड काउंसिल के हिसाब से भी जब भी आप आंकड़े देखेंगे, तो दैट numbers are always likely to constantly be the buying trend that can happen. So whether it is US, China, India, European Union, all are facing that same world credit crisis,
हम्म।
which that world credit crisis is great news for gold. So long term structural demand जो central banks, वो एक पैराबोलिक राइज हो सकती है, एक्शन हो सकती है गोल्ड में। एंड इसके बदौलत आपको ऑटोमेटिकली इंस्टीट्यूशनल बाइंग भी आएगी, और ईटीएफ के रिटेल पार्टिसिपेशन में भी एक अट्रैक्टिव इन्वेस्टमेंट हो जाएगा गोल्ड।
हाँ। सो नो डाउट गोल्ड इज कंसिडर्ड अ सेफ हेवन, क्योंकि जब भी एक टर्मोइल होता है कंसिडरिंग द जियोपॉलिटिकल कंडीशन, सो यू नो लोग हमेशा जो है दे मूव टुवर्ड्स द गोल्ड। सो इज इट रिप्लेसिंग द यूएस ट्रेजरीज एज अ प्रिफर्ड रिजर्व एसेट? कैन वी से दैट?
We cannot say that as a replacement, but the
हम्म।
participation, जिस तरह का हम
दैट इज मोर।
वेरियस एसेट क्लास में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, so as an asset class world over, central banks, institutions, and the countries, all the countries where they will be deploying their depending on the trade balances and all, तो उसमें we cannot be, it cannot be called as a replacement as a reserve asset,
हम्म।
but definitely it is still, as I just now said, it is indicative that the world में, worldwide central banks में जो reserve में, it is already second leading in the reserves. So the percentage contribution of the gold increases, and the percentage contribution on the treasuries are likely to come down. So US
हम्म।
debt, for example, is a huge $38 trillion. So that is weighing very heavily on the USD dollar and the
हाँ।
government bonds. तो इसके वजह से आपको ट्रेजरी यील्ड में से शिफ्ट होते जा रही है। तो दैट शिफ्टिंग ऑफ द ट्रेजरी यील्ड किस तरह का अप और डाउन, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल यूएस की 10 ईयर का ट्रेजरी यील्ड इज क्लोज टू
हाँ।
4.17. So we are to watch how the treasury yields are shifting, which will dictate the gold price direction.
हम्म। एंड सर, इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द ऑनगोइंग जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशंस, एक तो ट्रेड डील अभी अलग ही है, अभी तो उस पर कुछ हुआ नहीं है, यूएस इंडिया का ट्रेड डील। एंड इन 2026 में जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशंस उसको भी देखें अगर, तो वो कैसे गोल्ड प्राइस को और इम्पैक्ट कर सकता है? एंड स्लो डाउन इन चाइना, यूएस, दैट विल ऑल्सो स्ट्रेंथन द गोल्ड डिमांड फर्दर।
Yeah, correct. Potential देखिए, flagging off, what is really flagging off potentially for the corrections could be a fewer rate cuts by US Fed or
हाँ।
cooling off of the geopolitical tensions. तो यानी कि both these aspects, if there are only a fewer rate cuts by the central banks,
Hmm.
or if there are any cooling down of the geopolitical tensions that can trigger, which even now today at the present situation, unlike 2025 beginning stages where we saw a lot of turmoil in the geopolitical matter, still gold today is just having a consolidation. It is not having any correction in the price. So whether it is US and China economies, and in fact, US and China economies are showing signs of slowing down on their growth, which has actually led to central banks reducing the interest rates or monetary easing hoti ja rahi hai. The trigger is based
Hmm.
on your economic signs of slowing down on the growth. There is a possibility of the central bank's monetary policies changing and easing, which is in both these countries are happening. This is also giving a trigger towards gold as a safe haven. So, considering all these net situations of macro, whether the big deficits of the budgetary deficits, world credit crisis, and the monetary policies, so we see this and the yield also, the treasury yields
Yeah.
behavior, all these are giving a trigger towards gold.
Yeah. So my next question, I would like to know about the gold ETFs that you've mentioned earlier. So ETF holdings, if we see these are at the 3-year high. So could that ETF inflows alone push gold toward the $4,800 mark?
No, ETF alone cannot push gold towards the 4,800 mark. As I just now mentioned, the rallies are all in a big way that can happen is one small tranche of central bank of
Mhm.
any country buying, one tranche of monetary policies easing on any currency, the dollar behavior, dollar index behavior. Now today, everybody was expecting dollar index to get a breakthrough beyond 99 and a half, and probably it will again touch 100, but that's not the case. Today we are again back below sub 98 or close to 98 dollar index. So the central bank's buying spree, the inflationary trend which is very stubborn across, and the widening of the US deficit which we've just now mentioned, about $38 billion is this also the debt, and all these economy, US economy, and the tariff concerns are all one trigger, which indirectly the last of the bucket of the participant will always be the ETF. So these are the outcomes with based basis which ETF retail participation will push through, but ETF alone cannot drive it to $4,800.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, our investors, they are very curious about the technical levels. So, if you can just tell them that what technical levels they should closely watch in 2026.
Yeah, interesting thing. But I would like to rephrase the same question to myself by saying that could gold test the October peak if prices hold on above the key resistance? Okay. If gold were to hold on above the key resistances, it can definitely cross the October peak, which we are almost going to witness very soon. It is close
Hmm.
to that range now. So the
Hmm.
Fed remained dovish continuously. That is signaling that the future rate cuts are coming up. So due to that, the whatever gains were lost in the gold market, like it cooled down to almost close to $4,255. So the
Hmm.
stiff resistance is seen at close to 4,342. That is the tested low of 4,295 and a day high of 4,319. So the stiff resistance is close to 4,342. Right now, as we speak, it is already 4,370 or 4,375. So if it sustains above these $4,342 level in gold, it could test the October high, which we just now mentioned, and
Hmm.
rally beyond that, which is what we, as from Ventura, we are also looking at a target of close to 4,600 and 4,800 going forward. But first, we have to cross the milestone of October high. So if the breakthrough beyond 4,342 resistance is through, then we should see the October high. If the breakdown happens at those resistances, then we could witness gold sliding or correcting to $4,255, and where it gets a great support, very, very strong support. Beyond that could be 4,092. So that is how we are looking at the levels on the resistance and support.
Okay, so this was about the technical levels. Apart from that, What would you advise for a trading strategy to the investor in the long bull cycle with the increased volatility?
Yeah, yeah. I think gold, it's as it keeps rallying, we have seen just also we mentioned about various nine repeated quarters it has been
Hmm.
rallying. So gold's rally has been proven, and fourth consolidations every time there is a correction, it has been consolidated and continuing the rally. So we have not seen a big major correction of less than 10% or anywhere close to that range. So as the gold keeps rallying, the advice is that the odds of a periodic corrections are also increasing. So the corrections are bound to happen as it keeps on rallying. But at higher levels, require investors need to be very, very caution has to be exercised, and it involves a significant risk. So buying on dips is the health on healthy correction is what is recommended. So because basically commodity markets are highly cyclical, gold is also
Hmm.
naturally it goes through the boom and the bust periods. So the length of this bull cycle in gold itself it is instilling a fear that it will there will be a forthcoming bust. So
Yeah,
the bull run in gold is already a 10-year-old
that's
bull run.
yeah, 4 year
Silver's bull
run.
run is hardly 5.5 years bull run. So we
Mm-hmm.
are expecting a bust, but every downside correction, which I said previously on the technical level, that is what is the caution where one should keep buying on dips.
Okay, okay. I think that would be somewhat similar. My next question, if you have seen, you had already talked about the correction. If we are expecting the correction sharply, so what levels? If you can just give the levels for the buying opportunities.
If there are corrections, we don't see it immediately correcting too. But if there are, if at all there is a correction that is happening, we are expecting very great support of buying. We should exercise a buying at the level of $4,202. If it were to correct further, a very small more correction or support level immediately we are seeing at $4,190 and $4,160 and 4,114. So basically, what I'm trying to communicate is here for the investors is if there are corrections, these levels to be watched out. You
Hmm.
can keep buying at 4,202, 4,190, 4,160 levels. And the upside, there are great resistances also seen, which is beyond 4255. If you were to buy on a bull rally, wait for 4255 to cross. It is already crossed. Then we need to see 4265 and 4300. So any break of these resistance could take the rally to 4381, 4400 and 4441. So we have to participate. Investors are recommended to participate in the dip on
Hmm.
getting correction, or on the rally beyond the resistances, one can look for a reward.
Okay. So, last but not the least question of this podcast, simple advice to the investors that what to do on gold and how much exposure should they have in the portfolio?
That exactly goes to the macro picture of a central bank. Let us assume central bank also is an investor, obviously. Okay, so that is the confidence which in the first question itself, when you asked me about central banks,
Yeah.
when the central banks have reposed confidence, just look
Mhm.
at it. Gold's current levels are implying confidence that the Fed is moving very cautiously. What is the beauty of this entire market for gold is Fed is moving very cautiously with a softer stance, okay, and rather than being aggressive. Very slowly they are moving towards the interest rate regime.
Mm.
That is actually benefiting gold. Okay, so the upside is intact for gold, but it is getting capped every time that it is getting capped with the those resistances level. So the base case of a continuation of this range, it is bound to gain as policy normalizes, it unfolds gradually, inflation expectations remain contained. In all these situations, gold is a good portfolio bid, stabilizing all this rather than a momentum trade. So let's not look at a speculative trade. Gold acts like a proper portfolio participant. It becomes a stabilizer, and a faster than expected, had there been a easing of the cycle in the Fed, the renewed
Mm.
dollar weakness would loosen the cap and then invite stronger allocation to shift towards gold. So that fast movement has not happened to the Fed also. That
Mhm.
fast movement has not happened to the dollar and the yield. So the strong allocation will happen only when it shoots up greatly on all these three fronts. Otherwise, a gradual 15% of the gold portfolio is strongly recommended, which is a risk scenario in bullion pack and gold versus silver is an asymmetric situation.
Hmm.
So the risk scenario is
Minimum
not the same for gold and silver.
it's a minimum 15%.
Yeah, 15% is what is recommended.
ओके ओके। चलिए, थैंक यू सो मच सर। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका ये पॉडकास्ट पे समय देने के लिए, चैनल को टाइम देने के लिए, और बहुत अच्छा लगा आपसे बात करके। और इस इम्पोर्टेंट, क्योंकि गोल्ड पर लोग जानना चाहते हैं, क्योंकि अभी इतना ज्यादा बुल रन देखा। अब 26 में भी ऑफ कोर्स बहुत सारी एक्सपेक्टेशंस हैं। तो चलिए, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका।
Thank you.